Cool. All right, so for the interest of time, I've started recording, and I think we're just going to do some of the logistics. I'm not sure. Did you see if Jenna was on, Amber?
I don't believe she is yet.
Okay.
So do you want to do the logistics?
Yep, I got it. All right. So I briefly talked about this, but if everybody could make sure that they mute themselves and turn their videos off. And then at any point, if there's any questions, frustrations, times that we need to pause and reflect, drop those in the chat, and we will make sure that we get to those at least by the end of this time that we're here together. We're utilizing this space as kind of live office hours. So we're here to answer your questions, but we also want you to be able to work together as a group to answer each other's questions too. So just make sure that, you're putting your questions in there so we know what you need from us. Because we certainly don't have a front-hand view of everything that's going on quite like you guys do. So we want to be able to create things that help you in the future as well. So this is questions from the quarantine, and I'd like to start off by introducing myself. So my name is Lindsay Zilli. I'm the Director of Professional Learning for IDEA. I love working with educators. I'm very passionate about professional learning, and this here is my why. So I have 4 little ones of my own, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and they are my little guinea pigs for everything that I do. And this picture here is kind of my social media picture. This is what I put out there, right? What everybody sees is like my beautiful family, but in reality, this isn't exactly the way they look. So if you take a look at this picture here, this is with them with their grandparents. This is their true personalities. So I have my 2-year-old, super easygoing. He's always laughing, always smiling. My 4-year-old has got a lot of feelings, lots of emotions, kind of wants to always do the opposite of what I say. My 6-year-old is kind of that distracted learner where he's, looking in the one direction when I'm asking him to look the other way. And then my daughter's like, okay, I've already learned this. I know it. I'm done with it. Can we please move on? So this is the actual reality right now. And I wanted to just pause and say that you're going to see a ton of frameworks and calendars that people are posting and sharing online. And you have to pick the ones that work for you. It's not going to be one size fits all. Some of those calendars are not realistic for me and my life. And some of those calendars I might put out there and think, I can't do that with my own children. So don't feel like the things that you're seeing online, if you're not getting to that point, that's okay. You don't have to get to that point. You have to just meet your students, your learners, your own children where they're at, and just be mindful that they have different personalities when they're learning from a family member than when they're learning from a teacher. So you have to give yourself a little bit of grace when you're working at home with your learners. So I had this really big idea. I've been tying everything to word of the days with my kids, and I built this obstacle course for them on St. Patrick's Day. And I thought, oh, this will be awesome. We'll get this all set up. They'll play for it for a while. I'll get some work done. It's going to be great. We'll talk about problem-solving strategies and teamwork and just build a teachable moment in there. And this lasted for about 2 minutes. I had spent so much time putting this together and finding the materials that I thought that they would love. And I thought, this would be so cool. I would love this when I was a kid. And really, it just wasn't something that worked for them. So I would like to just encourage you to look through the perspective of your learners, of your kids. And instead of planning something for you, plan something for them. This wasn't meaningful for my kids, so it didn't take much time for them at all. So make sure you're thinking about that learner perspective first before attempting to do something as involved as an obstacle course that takes up your entire living room, because this just wasn't worth it. And that's okay. It's all right to fail forward. It's okay to try something and it doesn't work. I also want you to be mindful of people who post these pictures too. So I might put this picture out there and say, oh, I did this obstacle course with my kids. It was amazing. Again, it only lasted 2 minutes. So you can't just judge yourself based on all the things that you're seeing out there on social media. You have to give yourself a break and know that you're doing the best that you can in the situation that you're in. So some things that you should be mindful of at this time. You will not be able to keep the same pace you would in a classroom setting. It's simply not possible. So don't try and plan for every single activity, every single subject area as you would as if you were in the classroom with your learners. Secondly, use what you're familiar with. So if your students are familiar with Google Classroom, by all means use it. If it's not something that you have been working on with them, it's probably not a good idea to introduce something new at this time. You can do something as simple as opening up a Google Doc and using that as your back channel. But build off of things that you and your learners are familiar with instead of adding too much new. Each school and student group will need something different. So just like I was saying, my 4 little ones, all of them need something different. The same goes for every school and every district. So we need to support each other in different ways. Vary what and how you present.
That's amazing.
So if you're doing the same thing every day, it's going to get old.
That's amazing.
So instead of just
so you said mute, but yours isn't muted. Oh.
If you could mute yourself, that would be great. It's in the upper right corner of your screens when you have your little window. Okay, so vary what and how you present. With my own kids, if they're doing the same thing every single day, that's hard for them. But if they have the same structure of the day, so they're doing the same topic or theme, but it's a different type of activity, that's really helpful for us. So we have a loose framework that we like to follow with structure, but the content is different, and then the way that we incorporate that content is different. This is very important. Students will need to connect with you and each other. They need to see your face. They need to hear your voice. They need to connect with their classmates in some way, shape, or form. So whether it's on a Flipgrid or you do a YouTube video or you post a video in Seesaw, it's so helpful to see your face because you're their second home. So be sure that you are reaching out and connecting with your learners just like you would if they were in the classroom with you. And then finally, your colleagues are your safety net. So just like we're gathering here today, it's important that we continue to work with one another to help lift each other up. And that's what's been so incredible about what's going on right now, is that everybody really seems to be stepping up and doing what's best for learners and giving things away for free and offering assistance and working overtime to make sure that we're supportive of each other. So these tips come from Rushton Hurley. So I'd love to give credit to him because this is his brainchild. He also says that there are 4 things that you can do right now just to kind of filter out the clutter and all the other noise. So 1, make instructions, assignments, and messages easily accessible. So you might just be doing emails, and that's okay. You might be posting in a learning management system like Google Classroom, Seesaw, Schoology. It's totally dependent on the types of learners that you have and what you've already utilized with them. Just make sure to be clear about your instructions and the messages you're delivering. The second thing you can start practicing right now is learning to screencast. There's plenty of options out there for screencasting, and there's tons of tutorials that we can point you towards. So whether you're using a tool like Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, or QuickTime to record yourself, just get practicing. Another way that you can practice this is doing some lunch meetings with your peers. So jump on a Zoom together while you're at lunch and just talk. We all need that personal connection still. So that's brings me to my third thing that you could be doing is get comfortable with a video conferencing tool. I know we're all not super comfortable showing our faces, but it's definitely important that we're seeing each other now more than ever. So just get comfortable with this video conferencing tool, whether it's Google Meets, it's Zoom, it's something else entirely. Practice with your own family, and just make it almost a fun experience for everyone. And then finally, contact a colleague to connect and share an idea. Stay connected with each other. It's going to feel very lonely these next few weeks, and we need this time and this space to work together so that we're all. That's what you can do right now. So Amber, I don't know if you want to talk about some of our features on our webpage that we are offering to anyone at all.
Thanks, Lindsay. I have to say I'm very proud of this team. We worked over the weekend to put some resources together that we hope is beneficial. We've been brainstorming this week about different ways to meet your needs as well. So on our website, ideaillinois.org/home-learning. We can put that in, Jenna, if you can put that in the chat window as well. We have resources available for you. We have daily activities that you can integrate, whether as a parent or as an educator, from the elementary level, middle school level, high school level. Lindsay, if you can scroll down a little bit as well. One thing that has, excuse me, one thing that's grown, oh, sorry. I thought you were on our webpage. You just have the screenshot of our webpage. On our webpage, one thing that's grown quite a bit this week is resources that we've been putting together from our partners. So the partners link there is now including a lot of resources, not only on the technology side, but also on the learner's side. So it's been really exciting what our partners have been working on and putting together, and offering a lot of online courses, professional development, applications, resources at no cost. So everything that we're putting on there are things that have either become free and or in some situations, for instance, Comcast and what they're offering with Internet Essentials has been brought down in price significantly. So Lindsay's showing you the calendar that we have. Lindsay, if you keep scrolling down, the additional resources. I would highly recommend also, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more as questions are coming, but we do have the link to ISB there. ISB has provided a good number of resources under Keep Learning. So that's where ISB has curated a lot of things for you to look at. I believe theirs are curated by content area. And then the e-learning resources right there, Lindsay, that's the one I was mentioning. If you can click on that one from our partners. So these we also have on there, information from Apple, Google, and Microsoft, which I'm sure we'll talk about here later as well. We're doing some webinars with them next week. But I would also, again, highly recommend you checking that information out that we have on that page from our partners. Some great resources. We feel like there's a lot out there right now, and there's many, many other great resources out there as well. We have just decided as a nonprofit, our partners are very important to us. So we are curating our resources by our partners. So if there is an organization or a company out there that isn't our partner, they still have great things. Again, we're just curating by partners. So I do want to jump in real quickly, though, to some of the questions that are coming through. In regards to board meetings, Jessica, I did put in there the link to the statewide school closure guidance coming out from the State Board of Ed. I will tell you the State Board of Ed has been very active on social media under their tagline or their handle. So they're not necessarily using hashtags, so you can't find it necessarily that way. So I would highly recommend that you follow ISB's handle. I believe it's at ISB, all capital letters, news. They are putting out a lot of information on a daily basis. So the link there gives you the latest guidance regarding that. And they did change the requirement for the Open Meetings Act based on what the governor has provided. So that actually had to be approved by the governor. So regarding Open Meetings Act, they have suspended the provisions and are not requiring the in-person attendance with members of a public body. Another quick question that had come through was regarding the e-learning plans. We do want to be very clear that the State Board of Education has called these days Act of God days. Act of God days meaning that attendance and grades are not held against students. So ISB is recommending that you continue to find ways to keep the learning growing in whatever way that works for your district. They've been very clear that there is, as we have learned, probably have known, many of us in education know about the inequities that are occurring across the state, even sometimes within their own district. So the e-learning days, as of right now, through March 30th, are recommendations for you to use if that works for you, but grades and attendance cannot negatively impact a student during this time. We also, that also in that same link from ISB, and I put some of the larger text in there regarding that.
So next I see a question from Mia. How can virtual meetings with grade level teams best be organized? What do you think is a good time limit and how often should they happen? Personally, I think, 30-minute chunks of time with your teams, at least that's the plan, and then maybe you'll go over, but I think if people are seeing, having to commit for longer periods of time, sometimes it's hard to carve that time out. And then in terms of organizing them, I would, start with something like this, what are their questions? And then you can gather information as a coach or as somebody who can support them instructionally. And then the next time you can have some, target points of where you want to go with it. I was talking with a coach last night, and she's going to be starting, one-to-one coaching sessions with her staff. And we talked about her perhaps recording those sessions and then titling those recordings something very purposeful, like how to get your students on Flipgrid. And so that way, if other learners, other teachers in your district wanted to know about Flipgrid on their own, they could go and see that archived recording and, listen to your chat that you had with the teacher and not necessarily take up another hour of your time reiterating that same skill. So you could house these recordings of these coaching sessions for people that, just want to quickly learn a bunch of different things. And then they can reach out to you on specifics that they might have later on. But having that opportunity for open dialogue, I feel like a lot of times it's hard to ask the question in this situation because there's so many unknowns. So we might not have that question. But if you're in a position as an administrator or a coach where you can give pieces of advice or at least showcase what you're doing and what's working that you are doing, that can facilitate then some dialogue and some conversations. Whereas if we just say, ask me any questions, people might not know what to ask. So present some information first, and then you'll be able to build off of that and move from there. And if anybody else has any other suggestions for Mia on this, please share it in the chat as well. We'd certainly appreciate it.
Lindsay, I believe I saw a question in there from Vincent. Right now we are considered remote learning because these days do not technically count. If we remain closed beyond April 1st, are there any resources to ease the transition to more authentic e-learning protocols, procedures, and grading practices? That is a great question, Vincent. And I don't know if everyone is aware or not, but CPS has extended their closing to April 20th. So I think that is something that we need to be thinking about during this time, what that may do for the rest of the state. With that being said, I am going to put a link in here from Rushton Hurley. This was the webinar that we did with, or sorry, the link is Rushton's website, but we did a webinar with Rushton earlier this week, and he has some phenomenal resources on that page. I know it says webinars, but if you go to that page, you'll see along the right-hand side the resources that he has provided. And, you know, my fear and my hope, my fear is that we do extend these days and we do have e-learning that begins to occur. However, I think there's the good and the bad to that. The good being we're recognizing that there are other ways to facilitate learning outside of the classroom. My concern is that we end up throwing together some e-learning plans that maybe aren't going to be the best e-learning plans. In my opinion, a good e-learning plan is going to include all stakeholders, including students. You know, so I think getting student input and parent input and teacher input is going to be important to a really strong e-learning plan. I'm sure that many of you on this call may have some e-learning plans, and there are e-learning plans out on the ISB website as well. So ISB, if you go to their website that I put in there earlier, the Keep Learning website, they actually do have some plans out there that other districts have done. If anybody on this call wants to put a link to their e-learning plan on here, that would be fabulous as well. But Vincent, please know that as things progress, we are more than happy to continue these meetings, facilitating meeting with districts that do have e-learning plans and maybe doing some webinars with them as well to help with those districts in need of that. Lindsay, did you see the other question about SEL?
I did. Can you find the link for them and put it in the chat?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So, Catherine, you are in luck because this is one of my passion projects right now, is capitalizing on teachable moments and especially utilizing frameworks like social emotional learning to build in the academics with our own learners. So I've created a framework for elementary, middle school, and high school students based on Castle's social emotional learning framework and their indicators of success. So things like working on self-awareness. So what does that look like? What is an activity that an elementary school student can do? And then what does that look like at the middle school level or at the high school level? So Amber has put that in the chat. I'll pop that open real quick. And it is basically a spreadsheet with 3 tabs along the bottom. And in those tabs is the different grade levels, but it's meant to be an unplugged framework that you can use on a daily basis. However, you can use it at any point and at any pace that you would like. But it's really working on those social emotional skills and those soft skills that are so necessary for our students. And I think we have a really great opportunity right now to work on these skills at the home level so that we can get our parents on board and our students are not necessarily focusing just on the academics, but they're working on life skills. So for me, it's all about building in those teachable moments. So I have created this framework and it's several weeks long, but again, it's rooted in research-based practices. If we go to the last tab on here, the resource tab, are all of the resources that I use to kind of build in the activities. So it's not just simply things from my own head, it's actual research-based, research-proven activities that you could utilize. And this Castle website is phenomenal when working with social emotional learning. I know Lauren, who's on the call right now, is going through some trainings with Castle. So if you have any other advice, Lauren, to share with Catherine about social emotional learning, please do so. You'd be a great resource for people who are looking for more activities and more work with regards to this sort of topic. So hopefully you have some more ideas for us on that end. And that, go ahead.
I don't know if you saw what Lauren put in, but Lauren put in the chat that they're doing a choice board for K-4 families focused on giving back to the community in this time, such as writing a note to someone in a nursing home, during doing chores at home, purchasing a gift card to a local restaurant to use later. So Lauren, I don't know if you have a link to that choice board that is shareable or not, but I really love the idea of thinking about during this time how we can be giving back to one another. I think that is an important part of social emotional learning, and it does simply make you feel better by doing something for someone else. So I definitely think that that is an important aspect to remember during this time.
Another area that I'd like to highlight is the Sustainable Development Goals. If you were at our conference, Dr. Jennifer Williams keynoted and was a featured speaker, and this is her passion project. She has created these goals much sooner than, the present time. So this has been an ongoing process for her. But especially with your older learners, this would be a great way to connect those social emotional skills, those project-based learning ideas with actionable resource and global change. So if you go to that sustainabledevelopment.un.org website, not only are you able to kind of dive into each of these goals, so if you click on it, it unpacks it. And then you can kind of align it to what your learners are working on, or they can select a goal on their own. But there's also opportunities to take a stand and make a pledge. What are you going to do to show an act of kindness? And so it kind of levels it up and levels it down based on whatever kind of learner you have, whatever age range they may be in. So I really think that these sustainable development goals are a great framework to start some teachable moments from as well. And so I'll add that.
Oh. Lauren has put other ideas in as well. I can put in a link. A friend of mine that is a high school art teacher, she actually did a similar choice board that she posted on Facebook, and I did get them to share that. So I can put those links in as well.
Lauren's been so gracious with a lot of her resources, but I did want to, she asked a question a while back, so I want to make sure we get to her question. We've been doing e-learning all this week. Our teachers are feeling like their work day has now extended into all facets of their life. Emails from colleagues, parents, students with questions and help. Tips to cut back and make it manageable. I need these too.
Yeah, I know. I just read
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Okay, I just read a blog post actually about this exact topic, and it's actually recommending that we look at the frameworks for homeschools. So those parents who actually homeschool their students already are saying that students do not need a 6-hour workday. They need, an hour of math, 2 hours of reading, and they need playtime. They need time to work in the kitchen, time to practice those lifelong skills. But we shouldn't be looking at it as if we have to plan from 8:30 to 3:30 every day. Instead, we should say, what's one 1-hour activity for math that I can incorporate, or 2 30-minute activities, and also maybe share the wealth, I would say. So if I am an elementary school teacher, perhaps I take on the role of creating the math content, and my teammate takes on the role of the ELA content. And then we assign the same things to our learners, but we're not planning for both. So then perhaps the next week we switch, or get on board with your team of educators, and everybody take a content area to plan for and share the wealth that way. So you're not all planning every single content area and every single topic. It's important that we unplug. At the end of the day, we can Google ourselves, into this corner where we feel like we have to have this perfect lesson plan designed for the next day, and we just have to give ourselves grace. So make sure that your teachers are setting their times. Mona has a great suggestion: make your office hours for yourself. So make sure you start at this time, you end at this time, and you hold yourself accountable to that, because this job can be very overwhelming, but we also need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that we can take care of our learners in the future. Amber, there was something else that you were going to say before I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, you're fine. I think that's all great. And I think one important thing to remember that as educators, I think we struggle with a little bit is understanding that the e-learning portion isn't, it's just like the same thing when Chromebooks, or when devices came out, whether you're using iPads, Chromebooks, laptops, whatever. Transferring a worksheet into a digital worksheet doesn't mean that you're utilizing, technology in the right way. So I think we have to think about that in this manner as well. The e-learning process doesn't mean I'm taking what I would do in the classroom today and putting it into the e-learning day for my students. So I think we really have to think in a bigger way. And this is one of
trying to always find the positive in something. I think this is something that could be the positive of, we're really transforming what we are going to be doing in education because of this situation. An e-learning type of day should really look more project-based, like Lindsay described, and not so much, especially for high school, right? Like period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, those are kind of gone during e-learning days. Is there, and maybe there's someone that is online. I love what Lauren says, put on your oxygen mask first. She also said she's concerned about screen time for elementary students and ourselves as well, for sure. Vince says, make sure students and parents are especially aware of when you are available and when you are not. I love that, Vincent. I think that's so, so true. Establishing those lines of, here's my office hours, here's when I'll be looking at other things, here's my other office hours, maybe spreading that throughout the day. Great ideas.
Tracy asked along Lauren's question of, also, the question was, everybody's emailing you, everybody wants pieces of you. Tracy then said they have cut way back. We encouraged our teachers to connect, but she doesn't want teachers to get overwhelmed. What's the in-between? So this is completely random idea, but my niece is a gymnast, and at her gym, clearly they're not going, and she's like a hardcore gymnast. So at their gym right now, they're not going to the gym to work out, but their gym has issued a exercises by day, so this is just something that could be a, kind of a random build community. So the girls are held accountable to one another, where they have to get on a Zoom or a FaceTime or whatever methodology they're using, and work out together. And they have to put the camera on themselves and, show that they're doing the exercises with 9 of them, however many are in that group. That's something that you could build community, create something like that where students are building community with one another. You don't necessarily need to be the teacher in that same group doing that, but give them an activity where everybody does it together. Have everybody bake a brownies together and put themselves on screen. If you go on Facebook, kids are just loving connecting with one another while they're reading books or doing whatever, but create those community things where maybe the onus then is taken off of you. And you are giving them the opportunity to kind of do a little self-learning and independent learning.
Great suggestion.
I know we have another question, but I just wanted to reference the page in front of you. I've created 2 infographics, which we will share with you about how to kind of keep yourself honest. So I know this kind of speaks to Lauren's question and Tracy's question, and then to Alex's question, which we'll get to in a second. But it's just a way for you to frame how you need to structure your day for your learners and for yourself, without doing so much extra work. So not everything has to be digital, not everything has to be planned for by the minute. So remembering your why, focusing on the learning targets, capitalizing off of things like playful learning, building in experiences for your learners. So I know Alex asked that we're getting a lot of conflicting information out there between states with regards to the different rules. How do we get our message through the clutter so that parents know we are not asking them to do school at home? I think these are some pieces that you could share with your educator PLNs, but also your parents. But I'd also recommend cutting through the clutter by just making a video like this for them. Just sit down and say, hi, it's me, it's your teacher, here's what's going on, and explaining it to them as best you can. As a parent of school-aged kids, I'm getting alerts and messages and emails all day long, and it's overwhelming, and I'm less likely to read through that huge long list or paragraph. But if you have created a video for me, I can click play and listen to that. So I think we have to capitalize on that human factor and make sure that we are connecting with our parents, because they feel like you're their lifeline. And so reaching out to them and just being honest and just saying, here's what we know right now. I'll update you as soon as we can, and reassuring them that we're all in this together. But if anybody has any other advice for Alex specifically, please jump in on that as well.
Lindsay, I love the idea of making a video. I think right now in particular that becomes really important because that's the piece we're missing, right? And creating a video or doing an online webinar with your students, or online meeting with your students, that helps connect again by putting, the face-to-face together. Again, I'm going to say, Alex, I would highly, highly recommend that you continue to push out the information from ISB. I can tell you that even this weekend, there was a lot of confusion among leaders in the state about what the expectation was. So we have to just make sure that we know who right now is, the one that's determining everything. And I would filter people to them, send them to the ISB website, provide that document that I put in the chat window. Make sure that your parents and the educators are aware of where the information is coming from, which it is coming from ISB. So I think that that's important as well, which you could do, add that into your video. Mia just shared an incredible resource. Yes. Love it. Reducing screen time. I do too. Pretty sure right after this, we're going to add it. I'm going to mandate it for my staff to add this to their Chrome as well. So it's a Chrome extension called Move It. And it covers your entire screen and gives you a suggestion for how to move, and you can change the time intervals. Mia, thanks for sharing that. That's so awesome.
So I'm curious then, Mia, could your students download this as well, and then it kind of be part of their daily routine if they have the proper device to use it?
You can probably push it out through the Chrome
domain
admin.
Yeah.
And then that way,
and then everybody has it. Yeah, you can kind of force it onto everybody's device through the Chrome management system.
It was actually made for students.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good parents. I love this question. Do you know of any good parent control filters?
If you do, I need them.
Yes, my filter was not working well with my son earlier this week while we were working on e-learning at home. So I know it looks like somebody shared the life skills, severe ID, physically fragile. I don't know if that's an answer to the parent control filters. T. Steger, if you want to unmute for a minute, do you want to share a little bit more about specifically what you're looking for with the parent control filters?
I'm
Yeah, I'm
looking
not-
for something that they can use in Google so they could protect their children from seeing stuff they don't want.
So like a Google
Ah.
search filter?
Because, well, search filter, anything, because they're now working on their own routers
Yeah,
and
they're
their
not
own equipment.
right. Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually, and I'm sure we'll pop it up here in a minute, or Jenna will share about it, but we are actually doing webinars on Monday with Apple, Microsoft, and Google. So that might be, actually, we can probably put that question in to each of them and see what they have available and what they would recommend, if that would be helpful. Otherwise, I don't know if anyone online has something that they're using within or what they're recommending to their parents. If they are, please put that in the chat window. But we will certainly, any questions, this is one thing I love about our team as well. We like to find answers and resources for our members. So if there is an unanswered question in this chat, guarantee you, we will find the answer for you and we will get that information to you. Looks like somebody's recommending tech directors look into securely. When the students are logged in, it will filter for students.
But that will be something that you have to do at the tech director level. It's not something a teacher can implement. And then what
Parents
I always
can also set levels filtering on their Wi-Fi, which yes, Maria, that's a great point. And I think, but that's, again, I think if your parents are asking, that's a great suggestion. And that would probably be something they would have to work on within, their own provider of their home Wi-Fi.
So I was talking with a coach the other day. I don't know if she's still on. It was Mona, and she was asking about student access to Wi-Fi. So some of her population doesn't have access to internet, and I'm just curious, what are some strategies that your schools and districts are utilizing? Are you doing the hotspots like Maria said, or have you found companies that are offering free Wi-Fi? And if so, how are you getting that information out to your student population so that they can take advantage of those free internet packages? So if anybody has any strategies that have worked or ways that they are utilizing that sort of process, please drop some advice in the chat so we can forward that information along.
Lindsay, I'm going to drop in the chat again. Everybody is going to, thanks Maria for putting in the ISB.net Keep Learning. This is also something that ISB just put out on Twitter yesterday as well. And a couple of them I hadn't heard of before. But with the link that Maria put in there, you can find out more about what AT&T, Get, Spectrum, and Comcast are offering. And again, they're not all free, but they are very low cost and definitely are giving some additional options.
That's great.
Lauren has a question. Well, first, hotspots on buses going around neighborhoods. I did see some districts in particular, I believe Belleville maybe was one that I saw online, that are doing that. Extra access points at the schools that cover parking lots, Wi-Fi signs in windows to let people know where the closest APs are to a parking lot. Those are all great.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Which reminds me, if you also need some more positive following, make sure that you are following the hashtag IL schools step up. It's phenomenal to see. That's a great place to go. One, to see some positive things happening, but also to get some ideas of what other districts in Illinois are doing. But Lauren asked a question for what other districts are doing. We've been using Hangouts for students to communicate with their teachers. We typically only allow students to use devices for school purposes. In this unprecedented time, is anyone allowing students to use it as a way to just chat with their friends? Our bark alerts are heightened now that the devices are home for the very first time at 1 to 4. That's a great question, Lauren. And I mean, I can give my personal opinion. Again, yes, I think that's very, very important that the students are able to have opportunities to connect with one another as much as possible during this time, especially as it seems like there's more and more stipulations being put on about not gathering. And clearly, I mean, I know for my son, one of his favorite reasons to go to school is to be around his friends. So I think it is important to keep opportunities available for students to connect in that way. And maybe that's something that a teacher could incorporate as well. I did see some things online yesterday about, I think it was even a screenshot of the class meeting together, or maybe you could get groups of students together, similar like you do in a classroom. So I think those are very important.
I think that goes to what I was saying before earlier, even about, the getting together to do exercise routines or anything like that. I mean, they still need that connection. Yesterday I sent to our own staff, but I'm doing it this afternoon. Even for ourselves, I'm doing virtual happy hour with my neighbors. So we're doing a virtual block party. We're all going to have wine in hand at about 4 o'clock today, and we're just going to catch up with one another and see what everybody's been doing and how everybody's handling it, because I literally am looking at my neighbor's house across the street. I've seen her walk by to go for a walk yesterday, and that's the extent of our interaction. And we're all crazy right now. The kids are crazy. We're crazy ourselves. We're cooped up as well. So, I think those, now obviously your students shouldn't be doing happy hour, but those opportunities to just connect and, it's social distancing. It's not, social pariah. So, we still need to connect.
So someone put in a suggestion about Seesaw for students. And Lindsay, I know you know more about Seesaw than I do. Does Seesaw allow face-to-face engagement? Is there a way to do that on Seesaw, or is it just like on like written engagement?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just like a chat room that you can use it for, where you students can type something and then students can respond to each other's work. Now they can post a pre-recorded video, but there isn't like a live face-to-face option, so they can't talk in real time, at least from my experiences with it. As a parent, I use Kids Messenger, and I put that in the chat. So I have the app on my phone and their devices, so I can approve who they talk to, and I can see what they're saying to each other, and I can end that conversation at any given time. But my daughter was on the phone with a friend that she hadn't seen in a few years, and they were reading a novel to each other last night. So it's just really cool for them to have that interaction. My kindergarten son missed his friend from class, and so I reached out to his mom. They both got the Messenger app, and now they can do Minecraft, and they can talk to each other, and they can see each other. Now they could do Minecraft, online without that, but it's nice that they can actually see each other and talk to each other, and it helps. Kids are feeling stressed, so we have to take that into account, whether they show it or not. And so little things like connecting them with their friends is really important and really essential right now.
There's a couple of additional suggestions. Oh, sorry, Whitney. Go ahead.
Nope, all good. I'm a former ag teacher, and my middle school kids especially loved playing Kahoot and Quizlet, and I'm sure, if you use those, your kids love those too. So for a non-high stakes content area, if your kids are already used to using those kinds of things, you can host those games competitively from anywhere, and that can be really fun for them to compete remotely, and it still feels familiar. And you can do content area stuff, or you can just do fun games on those. My favorite was to do like things I wanted them to memorize, you know, that was fun, like breeds of chickens or whatever. But something like that they're used to, but also is collaborative, can be a lot of fun too.
That's a great idea. I love pulling back out some of the things maybe that we've kind of gotten away from, that we didn't use as much, to bring those back during this e-learning time, like Kahoot and Quizlet. That's a great suggestion. And of course, everyone loves a little competition as well. And kind of on that note, Whitney, that's what I was going to say, is Mia said she's doing a virtual game board night with her friends. And as Jenna said, that would be fun for students as well. Which reminds me, something that we're also working on, we're not quite ready to push out and officially announce yet, but we are actually looking at doing some fun things like that over the course of the next few weeks with educators, but also hopefully with something that you could then redo with your students. So more information coming on things like that, virtual fun things we will be doing with you later. Tracy put in that Chris, this is awesome. Chris is doing hashtag Java with Johnson. So at 10:30 every morning, he's doing this, and they're talking about court cases for AP government and just chatting. Tracy, if you put a link into that, I might join Java with Johnson, because that would be fun to participate in. Don't know if this was mentioned. We can ask parents to put pictures of things, Easter Bunny, Shamrock, etc., in their home windows. Then kids can do a counting scavenger hunt while getting exercise moving around the neighborhood. That's such a cool idea. I love that. Laura said Kahoot. Oh, go ahead, Whitney.
Nope. I'm glad, Laura, that you mentioned that they're doing the free premium access. I didn't see that Quizlet was, but Kahoot's premium access is awesome, so definitely check that out. But the other one is Goose Chase. When we went on a lot of trips as an ag teacher, and so I had my students still in the classroom, and you can make those virtual scavenger hunts. And we made them for us for like leaf identification. I don't know if you want your students going all over creation right now, but getting outside is good. And it can just be a fun, goofy one. And younger kids might be more willing to do that just for fun, but that's also competitive. So with the older kids, I always got them to do it by giving them some kind of a prize for the top two that finished first or something like that.
Great ideas. Lauren put in Eric Kurtz has some virtual game board Google templates, chess, checkers, battleship. And then I put in Eric. Eric was at IdeaCon this year as well. So his website, I just added that in as well. Good to know, Lauren.
All right, so we are at an hour now. For those of you who need to jump off, we want to be mindful of your time. So in the chat window is your PDH link. So you can get your credit hours for being here with us today. Hopefully we've answered the majority of your questions. But as always, if you have any other questions that, pop up, please don't hesitate to reach out for us. We do also want to reiterate that Monday we are talking accessibility features and how to make learning accessible for any kind of learner. So we're thinking students that might have 504 plans or IEPs, those students who don't learn the same way. So we are hosting Apple at noon on Monday, Microsoft at 9 o'clock? It's on our website for sure.
Yeah.
and it's going to be actually in the Microsoft Teams, so you're going to be able to experience that kind of webinar through Microsoft. And then Google for Education will be sharing, they have an incredible presentation to share using Google Meet. So you can kind of get familiar with those different platforms. You can go to one, you can go to all three. It's totally up to you. Again, it's free for anybody. We just want to be here to support all of you. So keep doing what you're doing. It's working. We're all here to help each other. We're better together. So we look forward to working with you more in the future virtually. So thanks everybody for joining us.
And again, we can stay on as long as needed. So if you have a question and you want to unmute at this point, or if you just want to put it into the chat window, we will be staying on. So we are here for you, and we're planning more of these moving forward. Jenna posted the actual link to the Google event. I believe it is 10 o'clock, but you can also go to our website and see that information as well. Where's the form to add emails to get a copy of the chat? We can post that again. Whitney, can you put that in? Lori, we will send the recording of this to you directly. If we have your email address, if you registered and or if you fill out the contact form. The contact form is bit.ly/320contact. And we will send the recording to you and a curation of the chat with the resources in it.